Welcome to today's Substack Live, Substack Live session. I've just come in from my garden room where I have been planting seeds for my autumn crops, autumn and winter, I should say. It's one of the things that I really enjoy doing when I am wanting to think through some of what I've been reading or some of the people I've been talking to. And that was definitely the case this morning, because what I was doing was mulling over some of the very interesting interviews that I have done on the Liturgical Rebels podcast over the last few months, and actually looking forward to a couple of other interviews that are coming up in the next couple of weeks. One, I want to give you a heads up on this one. It won't be published for another month or so, but on Monday I am interviewing Mark Wallace, who has written a book called When God Was a Bird. And I can tell you it's stretching me a little bit as I read it, but I'm finding it fascinating, some of the connections that he is seeing between the Holy Spirit and the animal and bird environment around us. But what I really wanted to talk about this morning is some of the missional people that I have been talking to over the last couple of months, particularly Ian Mobsby, that I think his interview went up about a month ago, and then last week, Alan Roxburgh. And very much engaging in talking about a different view of mission than I must say that I functioned under 20, 30, 40 years ago. I think that, like many of us who grew up in an evangelical worldview, I grew up with that idea that mission was about helping people to understand their sinfulness and to find redemption in the person of Christ. It was asking them to conform to a particular view of what God was like, of what Jesus was like, and what it meant to be a follower of Jesus. More recently, I have come across the viewpoint that both Ian and Alan talk about, which is a more incarnational look at mission, and the fact that at the center of mission is a God of love who is present in all of our world, not just in us who call ourselves Christians, but in every single person. The image of God is reflected, and not just in God, in people, but in the whole of creation. There is a sense of the presence of God. And so this form of mission is a much more contemplative view that focuses in on the God of love, who is present everywhere and who wants us to find intimacy, relationship, and to recognize the presence. Very different. And the ways that we kind of approach it is very different too. I think that redemptive theology has a tendency to focus on answers. We've got the answer. This is it. Whereas incarnational theology tends to focus on the questions, which is what I see that Jesus had a tendency to do during his life. In other words, what are the questions that we should be asking? And I have found over the last few years that I have constantly kind of got new questions surfacing that I want to talk about and I want to talk to God about, and that I am finding answers. Well, sometimes at least, not always, because part of the great mystery of God is that we ask questions, but we don't always get answers. And we certainly don't get the answers that we want. So this form of mission is not about talking, but it begins with listening. It's not, as I've already said, about answers, but it's about asking questions. I remember years ago, the British theologian John Stott saying, the answers we get depend on the questions we ask. And he said one of the things he was concerned about was that people weren't asking the right questions. And I think he's right. And I think it's still true. And I think that one of the questions at the center that we should be asking ourselves about is, um, where is God present in the situations that we are looking at? And how do we join God in the things that God is already doing? It's a very liberating view of both mission and of the world in which we are interacting that I have found just so refreshing. It has helped me to slow down. It has helped me to focus in on relationship with God and how do I respond to the world around me out of that relationship rather than responding to God out of that thing of, oh, this has got to be changed. What can I do to change it? And it's not me who does the changing, it's God who does the changing. And really helping to recognize that is just wonderful. And I have been seeing this in many things. As you know, I'm very concerned about sustainability. And it is very easy these days to look at our world and feel, oh, and to wonder what on earth we can do to bring about a sustainable world in which we find delight, in which things don't seem to be falling apart. And it's much easier to focus on the things that are going wrong, about the increasing pollution, about the here in the United States, the really pulling apart of some of the environmental concerns. But this morning, I was looking at some of the things and thinking about some of the good things that are happening. And one fascinating example that I read about yesterday, I don't know if you have heard of the Copenhagen waste to energy plant in Copenhagen. It was fascinating reading about this waste center that converts the waste into energy that provides for thousands of homes. And it doesn't stop there because they said, you know, a waste energy place doesn't have to be, well, as they said, real kind of somber and everything like that, but it can be a place for fun as well. And so this amazing waste to energy site has also incorporated recreation in it. So there's a ski slope, there are hiking trails, there are trees that have been planted. So there is natural wildlife that is coming. They are creating an ecosystem in which people can enjoy themselves as well as converting waste into energy. So look it up, Copenhagen waste to energy site. It's really well worth looking at. The other one I have been following the progress of for several years now is the Great Green Wall of Africa. And this is an African initiative in the Sahel area, in other words, right along the border of the Sahara Desert. They are working on creating a green wall, not just trees, but again, a whole ecosystem that will bring about the greening of this area of Africa. It will provide for new ecosystems. It will help to combat climate change, and it will provide quite a lot of ways that people can interact in the midst of that as well. I love it. It's a restoration project that again is well worth looking at. Only 30% complete at this stage. So something that we can, again, be looking at, what is God doing in the midst of this and how can we join in? And of course, there are ways that we can join in. There are volunteer opportunities. There are donation opportunities. There are encouragement opportunities as well. And these are just a couple of examples that say, let's look at what God is doing and let's join in and recognize that God is really in the midst of not just redeeming us as individuals, but really at restoring the world in which we live. And there are ways that we can be involved in it. So I hope this has been of interest to you. I'm going to get back out into my garden, do my tiny little bit for greening the planet and providing habitat in which wildlife can flourish here, I hope. So I hope that you will look at ways that you are meant to be joining God. It may not be in the area of sustainability. It may be in the area of poverty or racial justice or sexual justice, all kinds of things that all of us can be involved in. So I hope that you will join me in this work that God is doing. Many blessings on you. Enjoy this day.